This week I set a little challenge for myself, making 3 improvements to Will You Snail every single day. The first thing I had to change was the freaking face of the AI because, look at the old one. In case you're wondering, in Will You Snail you're basically playing against an AI, there are no obstacles in the level. But an AI tries to predict your movement and places obstacles in real time, which makes the game extremely hard and frustrating. But that's exactly what makes the game fun. The second thing I improved on my indie game this day is that there's no hiccup in the level animations when you respawn. So this is after the changes. Let me show you before the changes. Here you can clearly see that whenever the player dies, the level changes. There's a little hiccup in the animations and in how the level looks. Even the death particles disappear. This is changed now because the level doesn't restart anymore, the player just gets reset to the start position and this just looks a lot smoother. Yes, it's a small fix, but it's an improvement nonetheless. Next up is a visual improvement for the death animation. Let's do a little before and after comparison. Here you can see the effect before the changes and once again in slow motion. Nice and clean. And the new one, just more particles, more fireworks. Also these main sparks, these main trails are a little longer. And yeah, death feels more satisfying now, which is a little counterintuitive. Do you really want death to be satisfying? In this case I absolutely do, because dying is the main thing you do in this game. You die so many times, so better than make sure it's satisfying. So yeah, now you get some even cooler fireworks whenever you make a mistake. Last thing I improved on Monday were the eyes. They are a little more defined now, less creepy. You can see better in which direction they're looking. Once again, not sure if that's really better, just wanted to try it out. Here's before and here's after the change. We're on day 2 now, and the day before that I really felt like the better death animations really helped the game out. So I improved them some more. As a little reminder, this is how the animation looked before the change and this is how it looks now. So I added a nice flare, which makes it even more flashy and more impactful. You can even see some lightning right at the impact. And all of that happens very quickly in-game, so you barely even realize it's there, but it makes a huge and absolutely massive difference in terms of how powerful it feels. I felt like the face of the AI made the screen a little too noisy, so I tried making it darker, which I feel makes it easier to focus on the gameplay. Last thing I did on Tuesday for my indie game Will You Snail is I changed the death sound of the snail. It obviously fits the new animation a lot better, it gives it more impact and a nice electric sparkly vibe. Works really well in my opinion. We're now entering game development day 3. As you can see, it's very hard for me to get that stupid face right. It's a pretty tough challenge because on the one hand I want to make it blend in, on the other hand I want to make it stand out so you can instantly see it on screenshots. But if it's too intrusive, it disrupts the gameplay, it makes it hard to focus on the game. It needs to fit to the style of the level while still looking unique and interesting and providing the level with something interesting and crazy to look at. So yeah, maybe it's wishful thinking that I'll ever be able to accomplish all of that in one design, but this is just another experiment. Please help me out and tell me in the comments which one of the AI faces you like best. Appreciate it. Next up I made a little respawn animation for the snail. This is how it looks like. It's pretty subtle, but once again it just helps to increase the overall polish of the game. Because my workflow at the moment is that I'm producing a vertical slice. So I try to make one level as awesome and as good and as polished as possible. Probably not the best workflow for every project, but in this case I think this will save me a lot of time, because if I decide to change something later on, it would be a pain in the ass to go through all of the levels again and change everything up in every single level. So that just has a little bit to do with how GameMaker is set up. The weird layer system, I just want to get the layers straight for my room before I make more levels. And another advantage of this workflow is obviously that you get something that looks pretty decent pretty early on, so you have something to show off, and it makes it sort of easier for people to imagine how the finished game will look like. Day 3, improvement 3 was that I created a jump sound. It's okay, I'm not quite happy with it yet honestly, but it's still better than having no jump sound, so I guess it's an improvement. And I changed the face again. After watching the pixelated face for a while, I didn't really dig it anymore. Mainly because I was kind of upset by how messy the level looked, by how chaotic it was, how hard it was to follow the action. This is obviously a lot more clean, the AI stays a lot more in the background. The disadvantage being that the main selling point of the game isn't that visible anymore. The AI isn't that visible anymore. So yeah, seems like I can't have both. Wow, seems like I was really frustrated with the readability. For now I decided to remove the face completely and I changed the color of the snail. The trail of the snail is more visible now and there's some additional feedback whenever the snail jumps. In fact, I think this helps the readability a ton. It's way easier to follow the action, which is great for watchability, which has always been one of my main goals. This game needs to be entertaining and cool to watch, and for that you obviously need to see what's going on. I've tried changing the color of the snail a couple of times, but I never really found a color that fit to the rest of the level. I think this blue fits to the level kinda well, so I think I'm gonna keep it. Surprise! Here comes the face of the AI again. The only difference being that now it's in the foreground and the color of the snail has changed, so that really allows me to be a lot more aggressive with the design. I imagined the AI with a very cheeky and mean character, so I had this epiphany that it would be kind of weird of it to hide in the background. I mean, it's trying to annoy you, it's trying to piss you off, so of course it's right in your face. It might even block your view, whatever, as long as you can still see what's going on. Everything's good with me. And I think that's a lot easier now, because the snail's blue. Now, before we move on to the last awesome day of game development, I want to answer this question for you. Is this actually a good way to work on your game? The deal is you make 3 improvements to your game every single day. Whether that's small improvements or big improvements is entirely up to you. Now, what I can tell you after trying this for 1 week is that this works really well if you need a way to motivate yourself to get some work done. It's a little bit like that, oh, just sit down for 5 minutes method that basically relies on the fact that when you start doing it, you get motivated to do it and you do even more of it. But it's the more results-oriented version of that. I feel like this actually gets you somewhere, whereas, yeah, just working on your game every day for 5 minutes, sometimes that doesn't get you anywhere. Another thing that I find extremely motivating about this is just tracking your progress. So definitely make sure you take screenshots after every improvement, or even better, make videos after every improvement. That's what I did. Then going back and looking at all the improvements you made to your game is such a motivating feeling. You definitely want to make more improvements after that. If you're struggling with consistency in game development, I recommend you try this out. Maybe even just 1 improvement per day. Bonus points if you turn it into a video like this one and upload it to YouTube. That brings us to day number 5. I made the face move around. It looks a lot more alive now. It kind of follows you and reacts to your movements while also trying to stay out of your way a bit. Really like this change, and I think it's gonna be really cool as soon as the AI has some facial expressions and starts talking again. The only thing I'm still not sure about is the crickly look of the AI, the style it's painted in. So if you have any ideas for that, let me know. Next up is another fix for the readability. The spike warnings are more visible now. Before that, you often had the issue that you couldn't see them, especially when you were standing exactly on top of them. This issue is now resolved. You really can't miss them anymore. The last change is something you will absolutely see if you pay attention, but I wanna see if you can spot it yourself. For now, I wanna do a final comparison from where we started to where we're now. This is where we started. Just take all of those impressions in. So much is still missing, it feels really awkward to look at it now. This is where we ended up, of course, very happy with the result. If you want to become a game developer or a better game developer, you might want to hit the subscribe button, because that's the journey we are on here on this channel. I'll see you guys and the one girl that's watching in the next one.